Well, welcome everyone to our free Tuesday trainings. And so I'm Boyd Peterson, and I've got James Carroll here with me. And James is going to be doing most of the heavy lifting today, as you saw him trying to do. And, he airlifts very well. So today we're going to be talking about landing pages, and a holistic view of SEO is what he's calling it. And so this is kind of a part two of one of our classes that we had about landing pages before. So I'm going to turn the time over to Jim, and he's going to share with us and show us all about it. So go ahead, Jim.
There you go. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay. Today's presentation is kind of a continuation of something that we had done earlier. We had spoken about landing pages. And I want to talk about landing pages for a second. Last time, I think we were pressed for time and we got into it pretty quickly. But landing pages are unique to a website, and they take on a couple of different forms. The first one would be a standalone landing page. That would be a page that you buy a unique URL for, and you optimize it specifically for a product or service that you have. Generally speaking, they easily outrank your own website, which is kind of interesting because you've got a standalone URL, but you don't have all the baggage that comes along with it. The baggage of, let's say, lots of links or lots of links to different parts of your site, or a contact us page. What you can have is you can have a standalone landing page, and with one link, one product or service inside of your site. So it's easy to optimize. You can get away with just optimizing for that product or service. So that's a unique one, or a unique way to go about it. Big companies, and I've used this example before because it's easy, but like a big steel company might have a product page, a landing page specific to aluminum, or diamond plating, or steel, sheets, or steel eye bars, or whatever. They can have those standalone landing pages, and then they drive inbound links into their site, inbound right to the actual page where you would purchase that. A different type of landing page is a page inside of your site that you optimize heavily and are trying to generate traffic to a product or service. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about holistic search engine optimization for a landing page. So I'm Jim Carroll, that handsome guy right there, and I always throw in a slide that looks something similar to this, and you can see that I've been around a little bit. Those are my pups in the upper corner. Sailed into the Atlantic, into Africa. Those moose in the lower left corner are from my actual driveway, when I lived up in the woods, and that bear just above them, of course, is my cabin up in the woods. So that was a painting day, and he decided to invade my garbage and take a McDonald's sack out of my garbage can. So at any rate, what we're going to talk about, or what we're going to learn today, is about holistic SEO. And there's 7 elements of things that are good for your website or your landing page. And the first one is, and I'll go through these pretty quickly. I hate it when people read, a dissertation off of the website. Does your website satisfy the searcher's intent? Or does it have a clear goal? What is the goal of your website? Does your website have technical prowess? Is your website trustworthy and safe? Does your website have a great design or stellar user experience? Does your website have awesome user-centric content? Is your site mobile friendly? And does your site talk directly to search engines? Which is an interesting way to think about this. I want to emphasize this a little bit, and we'll talk more when we get to that slide. Think about it. What you're really doing, and I tell people this frequently, and that is that I think of having 2 clients simultaneously. There's the client that pays me, the client that I'm optimizing their website and working on their website. But my secondary client is the search engine. I, can make a beautiful website. I can put, unique content on it, for example. But if I'm not doing the right things to satisfy the search engines, and that's everything from, having it readable, having a sitemap, having citations, having social media, all of those things encompass a good website. And the search engines will respond correctly if you do all of those things. But you have to think also that you're talking to the search engines. So, keep that in the back of your mind when you're creating a site or optimizing a site or doing anything to make a site function or rank on the website. So the site has to have clear goals and satisfy the user. So we kind of start with satisfying the user. We're going to end kind of with satisfying the search engines. So you kind of ask yourself, what is holistic search engine optimization? Well, we all know the definition of anything being holistic, but now we're talking about SEO. So there's a couple of things that you need to satisfy, and I'm talking on all levels. You have to satisfy the user intent. When the user types in a search into Google, and it doesn't matter whether it's garden equipment or garden flowers or for goodness sake, diamond plate metal. Every one of those results are going to get something unique and something completely different. Garden implements is going to be different than garden flowers, or how to raise grow a flower in, our climate, or any of those things. But the search engine's job, and if you'll think about it this way, and it's rarely thought of this way, the search engine's job is to deliver results for your search. And that's backwards of how we think of it. Most of the time we think, well, I'm searching for this, and so, they have to give me results. But they don't always give you the results. If you search for garden implements versus garden tools, you're going to get two completely different searches. There's something about the term implement versus tool that Google has determined that's one of those sites, or the sites that render are appropriate based on that search criteria or that search term. So think about that. And I used to have a roommate, and she would always, not find something on the internet, and then she'd say, you find it. And so I would put in a search term that's appropriate, and I would get results every single time. And it used to drive her mad, but that was years and years ago, and hopefully she's become a better searcher by now. But the way that I craft the search determined the results that I got. So think about that. The search engines are always trying to satisfy the user. It depends a little tiny bit on content and the content of your site. How you speak about things, how you write blogs or write content or write any of those things on your site. Content is the only way. Well, that's not fair. It's the primary way that the search engines determine what the site is about. And so if they send out their spiders, and the spiders crawl all of that site and determine the site based on keywords that you've embedded, based on keywords that are in your content, based on similar words that are in your content. And I don't want to belabor the point, but if you put, hot dog, do you mean a fancy skier or do you mean a barbecue? And if you surround the word hot dog with ketchup and mustard, and of course we're talking about a barbecue. So, surround that word with skiing or pine trees or snow, then you're obviously talking about a cool skier. So Google has become very, very good at determining what the value or the net worth of that site is based on the search criteria. So you have to make sure that the content reflects what it is that you really, really do. And then, of course, you have to have a stellar user experience. Combining all of these things creates a great SEO strategy. So think about that. And then I put at the very bottom of my slide, and I think it says, this includes having an active social media campaign. I did that just for Boyd. So, social media is playing a bigger and bigger role in what it is that we do every single day. So you know and understand the audience. So when you're speaking to an audience, you're speaking in terms that they understand. So does your audience, does the search satisfy the way that your audience thinks or speaks or uses a very specific terminology? You know, you've all seen the movie about building the baseball diamond in the cornfield. And the premise of the movie was if they build it, they will come. Well, that doesn't necessarily work anymore. And it doesn't necessarily, it specifically does not work on the internet. Just because you build a cool site doesn't mean that they're going to show up. It just doesn't cut it. So you have to have all of these other things, other solutions to the problem, to their search. So if you're searching for garden implements, I don't know why I'm focused on garden implements today because it snowed last night, but either way. So if you're searching for garden implements, do you call it an implement? Do you call it a tool? How does your audience speak? And so you have to embed that. You know, you can talk about picks and axes and shovels and rakes. Are they implements? Are they tools? What are they? Are they garden specific tools? You know, so how you make those long tail keywords expand or contract based on what you're trying to get across to that audience is going to make a big difference on how your site renders. And the big thing is that you need to offer a solution. So if you're talking about garden tools, and clearly that's going to mean a shovel, a rake, and an axe, maybe pickaxe. Does that mean that they're going to find your site accordingly? You know, how do you refer to those things? And so it's very important. And I ran across this quote when I was doing my research today, and I found it really compelling, so I used it. But are you offering a drill or a hole in the wall? And that's an interesting kind of difference. If you're offering a drill that can drill a hole into the wall, that's one type of offering or solution. If you're offering an existing hole in the wall, then that's an entirely different solution. So you have to really consider the intent of your audience, how they're going to use their verbiage, and what it is they're actually looking for. So bear that in mind, and think about search intent, the intent of what your clients are actually looking for. So moving on to does your site need technical prowess? And the first question that comes to mind is the site crawlable? And crawlable comes in terms of a lot of different categories when I think about it. One of the first things that are important is, does your site have a sitemap? There's applications like WordPress that actually, to a large degree, automatically build a sitemap. There's applications, plugins that you can use on WordPress that make the sitemap easily readable by search engines, and it creates a structure for you. And so once you can put that sitemap, generally speaking, in the footer, the Google providers will actually find that and then crawl that based on the sitemap, and they can see every page that's on your site. When you add a page or delete a page, then that's all crawlable. If you make a page no follow, and what that tells Google is that you don't want them to follow that. Most of the search engines don't bother reading a no follow page. A good example of what a no follow page would be is something like a contact us form. Google really doesn't need to index, doesn't need to read another no follow page or a contact us page. So you actually get a spiff a little tiny bit if you make your no contact page or your contact page a no follow page, excuse me. So next things that are involved in technical prowess are load speeds. And I've got a client, I just became engaged with him this morning. Actually, I've been engaged for a couple of days. We haven't signed a contract yet, but I pulled a search on him, and his mobile site takes 14 seconds to load. And he's, pounding me saying, I need citations, I need citations, I need citations. And I said, effectively, I said, dude, I can give you citations. How many do you want? And, he came up with a number out of his ear. The long and short of it is, I went back to him and said, it takes 14 seconds for your site to load on a mobile device. How long would you wait for your site to load on a mobile device? And he goes, well, not 14 seconds. And I said, that's my point. In 2020, Google said that they're going to use a mobile index first. And so your site takes 14 seconds to load. I won't wait for it. You won't wait for it. Nobody will wait for it. So load speed is one of the most critical things that he can fix on his website long before we add citations. His social media needs to be fixed as well. He needs links. He has 2 inbound links. So many problems with this site, and all he's worried about are citation. So, think about load speeds. Think about your hosting provider. Think, I'm sure GoDaddy hates me by this point. GoDaddy is the worst hosting provider on the planet. They put too many, websites on one server. It taxes the CPU, and you get a low, or a slow load time. So there's other people. I'm not going to throw any names up, but you can find them. Just Google the top 3 hosting providers, and you're going to find 2 or 3 of the better ones. I guarantee you that GoDaddy will not be there. The next thing we're going to be concerned a little tiny bit about is security. Does your site have the little lock in the upper left-hand corner? Your site will render if you type in the site's URL directly. People that argue with me about this, they type in their site's URL, and of course it comes up. It can't not come up. But if they're an electrician and you type in electricians and they don't have a secure site or that little lock in the upper left-hand corner of the URL, then it'll never come up. Google has said we will not render a site that is not secure. So don't even monkey around with that. Don't monkey around with your load speed time. Don't monkey around with security. The next thing is searchability. Are there tags and things inside of your site that make it more searchable? The answer should be yes to that question. So think about searchability. Make sure that your site can be found and it's searchable and crawlable and all of those other things that Google wants to do. You actually have a CRM attached to your site. That's kind of a little bit off the topic. There's a variety of different ways to go about it. There's actually CRM providers that link into your site. If you use a WooCommerce solution, then of course, when somebody buys something, then they automatically get put into a database, and then you can market to that database because they've agreed by buying stuff from you and those types of things. Excuse me for 1 second. So next, and this falls under the guise of technical prowess. Do you have a reputable hosting company? That goes back to also being secure. A lot of top-notch hosting providers actually not only provide greater speed, they also provide the HTTPS or the secure socket layer, usually at no cost. So think about all of those types of things. Next, is your site trustworthy and safe? So the search engines pay a great deal of attention to this. Not just Google, but all of the search engines are beginning to render sites not accessible if you don't have that secure socket layer. There's a couple of browsers that no longer will actually render a site or make it nearly impossible to get to a site if you don't have that secure socket layer. Oh, savvy users look for the lock. I didn't read my notes there for a second. So the savvy user will always look for the lock. There's an occasion that I will go to a site that isn't secure. It's because I'm trying to accomplish something or see something, and there's ways to do that safely. Putting yourself in a incognito window or something. Sometimes, protects you a little tiny bit more. Plus I have protective devices, of course, on my computer. So frequent updates and fresh data tell all users that you're paying attention. So if you have a website and it's a cool website and it looks cool and it has all the right information, it has a couple of links, it has a couple of citations, it has a couple of social media applications that refer to it, and you launch it and it's all good and it ranks well coming out of the chute, and you never ever change it, what do you think happened? It might come out ranking very, very high. I've seen this happen a lot. Then it starts to slide down that pile, slides down that pile. You have to have fresh content. There is a requirement by Google that you get fresh content for you to maintain relevancy. So you need that fresh content and it says a couple of things. First of all, it tells the users that you care. It tells the search engines that you care. It tells them that you're staying up on current events and things. There's a couple of blogs that I wrote a few years ago, and I've kind of been slowly cleaning those up because they're less relevant today. If I wrote a blog that said, oh, mobile sites don't matter, 5 years ago, excuse me, I need to get rid of that blog right now because that's not a relevant blog. Google has said we care a great deal about mobile. And if I wrote 5 years or 6 years ago that Google didn't pay attention, I need to get rid of that blog and get rid of that old information. So having the site be current, having old or unrelevant information, trash canned is important. And so you should always have the most relevant stuff and the freshest stuff, and that lets everybody know that you care. Make sure that your site is a safe haven for visitors, meaning that it meets all their requirements. They have a lock in the upper left-hand corner. They don't get any warnings like big beeping red flag that says this site has been hacked or something goofy like that. Always remember it's much harder to fix a hacked site than it is to just protect your site. There's a couple of there's a lot of sites that I use, a couple of security protocols that I use, but they let me know when somebody's trying to hack it. I can check those every day. Just a fundamental site, one that's not heavily trafficked. The one I'm thinking of doesn't even sell products online, but you might get multiple attacks a week. Sometimes they're robots, sometimes they're an individual, and I can track the IP address back to China. If you guys want to contact myself or Boyd directly, I can share those plugins with you. But there's a couple of them that are really aggressive, and I love them because they let me see what's going on, what kind of attacks I'm getting on any given site. So bear in mind that it's easier to protect it than to fix one. Oh, hey, so stellar UX, and this refers specifically to the user experience. So think about your site from a user's perspective. And if you're a user and you show up and all you're trying to do is sell them widgets, buy a widget, buy a widget, buy a widget, pop-ups start to happen, buy a widget, buy a widget, buy a widget. That's a terrible, terrible user experience. If you land on the site and you might say, we are a widget company, and then have a blog page that talks about widgets, then have a page that talks about the history of widgets, and then if somebody wants to actually buy a widget, they can go to the shop page. That's an incredibly good user experience instead of just buy. People get really bombarded with that aspect of it. But make sure that there's the history of a widget and fresh blog information about how you make widgets, or your factory, or even in some cases it might be the employees of the factory. Think about all those cool things that you can blog about and talk about, keep the site relevant, the site information, and keep the user engaged in the site. encourage them to bookmark the site, encourage them to come back weekly because you post a new blog. I mean, there's a lot of cool things that you can do. Kind of going down that path a little tiny bit, remember that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And that's why I actually put that graphic. That's kind of the lion and the lioness, I guess. But you can't make everybody happy. And you might really be compelled by orange and red colors. So you load your site up with red and orange colors. Google honestly doesn't care, but it might be really, really offensive to the end user. So red is a stop color, orange is a stop color. It's arguable, and I think Boyd will argue with me a little tiny bit, that having a banner with a red flag it catches the eye and people click on it more often than not. That's probably true. But if at the end of the day you have orange stripes and green stripes and orange stripes and green stripes, it's called vibration. And what it does is it makes your eyes hurt. And so, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. You may have a passion for orange and green, but at the end of the day, it's not compelling. So you kind of have to, I would say, hire a good designer and let them do their magic. And you're going to have to trust them. They went to school and, excuse me, have some expertise in design. So let them run away with it if you can. The look and feel is really important. How does the site look? How does it react? Is it easily navigatable? Is the word I want to use. Make sure that the shop is easily readable, easily navigable. And so this all creates a good user experience. If you're selling stuff online, that's one thing. If you have a brochure page, that's another thing. If you just have a statement page, that's something entirely different. There's a couple of 3 different kinds of websites there. Most of us are trying to sell something online, so it has to be compelling. It has to be good. It has to satisfy all of those things I talked about: experience, the beauty, the look and feel, the shoppability, and satisfy the user experience. Make it easily navigable to find those products that they're looking for. So bear all of that in mind. Content, and this just goes right to my core, right to my grain, and I put content. And it's hard to put a number on it exactly. But, the easiest way to satisfy Google or satisfy a spider or satisfy a search bot or a crawler or any of the search engines is to do a couple of things. First of all, make sure that your metadata reflects what the site is about. And you do that through putting meta descriptions in there, meta content. You support that meta content by actually writing content on the site that reflects the purpose of the site. What is the purpose of the site? Why does the site exist? That's the question, if you'll think about it. Google is always asking, why does this site exist? Why do we care that the site's out there? Why should we rank? And Google has its own, set of reasons. Most of them are logical, and most of them piss off, people like myself and Boyd. We're trying to rank sites like crazy, but they've got this, realistic set of rules. I'm going to call it realistic. A realistic set of rules that we have to follow to make that site worthy. And that's the question: is the site worthy to rank for search criteria? And that's mostly reflected by content. So, there's meta content, and then there's content on the site. Make sure that they mirror each other and respect each other. So Google, any search engine really, is always looking for a unique solution, and that's reflected through the content. You can, have a unique solution, but if you don't describe it accurately through the content, it won't rank that solution. So, most searchers are actually looking for something. How do you change a tire? How do you fix a flat tire on a bicycle? You know, and those are two entirely different things. You know, fixing a tire on a car and fixing a tire on a bicycle are two entirely different things. So make sure that you're bringing the right solution, that you're describing the right solution through your content. Solve problems, solve problems, solve problems is always what we're looking for. Provide research, the best research, excuse me, and always be in an education mode. Through most of the blogs that we write, you know, and publish for our clients, we're always looking to educate the end user. And you know, if there's blogs, I'm thinking of one blog that Lloyd and I both work on the same client, and most of his blogs are about a solution. You know, we sometimes don't like his the way he speaks about things, and I'm pretty liberal as far as actually changing content to make it more digestible, if you'll think of it that way. He's got a strong opinion about it. A couple of big things like pharmacies and stuff like that. And so we're actually having to clean up his content a little bit and make it more digestible. He does the research is solid, and then we do our best to educate those people. And we actually have a couple of blogs that are outranking his site because we're actually satisfying all the things that Google needs as far as content. So you can actually outrank the site, and I always get a kick when we do that. So designing for mobile first, I kind of jumped into that early on, but Google has a requirement that, or if you'll think of it, they have two big piles of websites. They have a pile that are all mobile based, then they have a pile that are all desktop based. And when they converted to the mobile first search, that meant that they were always going to go to that mobile index first, and then if they didn't find a good result, then they would go to the desktop version second. What that means in the long run is that you have to make your mobile version most compelling. And there's a lot of things that has to happen. It has to load fast. I'm going to guarantee you that every website, when you search on your mobile device, everything on that first page, all 10 versions, load in under a second, which is frightening. Now, if you think back to my client that I'm kind of engaged with, his site took 14 seconds to load. I'm telling you, every site on the first page, the first 10 sites on a Google search on your phone are going to load in under a second. And there's a lot of reasons for that. First of all, usually they get a lot of attention to their design. They've minimize their images so that they upload fast, and there's a lot of things that go along with that. In addition, it's going to frighten most people is that first page on a mobile search will load, then all of the next 9 pages have assets load in the background. And so it's kind of a goofy little thing that Google does. What happens is the first page will render, and then they're loading assets in the background, so that if you decide that's not the right page, the first page is not what you want, and you click on the third page, those assets for that third page will already be loaded, and it will load equally as fast or maybe faster. So think about that Google is cheating by loading the first page first and then having assets for all the other next 9 pages load. It's goofy, but at the end of the day, what does it do? Google is satisfying the end user's query. So the person that's searching, they're satisfying their need for speed, and satisfying their need for content. They're satisfying their need for a lot of things. Google always does think of everything from the user's perspective, not from myself or Boyd's perspective. They want to satisfy the end user. So what they do, cheating, loading assets in the background, we're not really available because we're kind of scrolling and looking around on the first page. All those other assets are loading in the background. So remember, less is more on mobile design, and clear through the, crap. Boyd and I have had another client that sold medical equipment, and he had to have his video loaded. He had to have his video, had to, plug in all this crap. He wanted so much on the first page that the site never really ranked well, mostly because we had too much crap going on. I tried to tell him a couple of times, let's clean this up. And he said, no, I want all this stuff in there. So, you have to satisfy your client at the end of the day. But still, we weren't able to make the site rank because he put a lot of crap in there. So he demanded that a lot of crap be in there. So, clean up the clutter. Next would be keep it fresh. Keep it fresh with new content and all of that. And always bear in mind that Google is doing mobile indexing first. That's correct in 2020. So finally, we're going to talk to the search engines. How do you help the search engines figure out what you're talking about? And that's through something called Schema Data. The Schema Data is basically a structure that tells them through a variety of sources, including metadata, including site maps, and including all of the other stuff, what the site is about. And that's really the biggest question Google cares about is what is the meaning of the site? What is the purpose of the site? Does the site deserve to rank for a specific topic? What are all the things that we want to talk about? So schema data is a big word. Nobody understands it. What it is it's data that supports the purpose of the site. So think about it that way. And I put this in here, but it's only, remember, it's only structured data. It's just more data that Google can digest, understand the purpose of the site. Don't forget to brand yourself. Always, always, always keep your logo in there, keep yourself branded. Don't put a logo in there and call it image 123. It should be the brand identity of EP Media or E2 Total Solutions or whatever. Don't let it be some esoteric number. Make sure that it's called, logo of E2 Total Solutions or logo of BP Media or whatever. So make sure that you're branding yourself. Make sure that you're keeping your brand out there. You need to do that. And we'll put an FAQs page in there or a how-to. How-to stuff is always a big clue that you can do videos. And it's not just Facebook, it's YouTube and all of those other places. You can rank a site literally using YouTube videos. You can rank first position by cross-breeding your YouTube videos with your website, with your social media. So it's a much bigger world. It makes my brain hurt sometimes that it's kind of come to this, but I don't think it's done. There's so many assets or facets, including social media, including YouTube, which is a social media account, including all of these other things, content on your site, the citations that you have, the links that you have. Where do those links come from? It's one great big old world, and there's not any. And I used to say this. I remember saying this 15 years ago. There's not any one solution or silver bullet that solves the problem. And today, there's 100 times the number of silver bullets. There's a guy that's kind of known around the world as a SEO genius. And I was watching one of his videos yesterday. And, we talk in terms of having 10 or 12, never 20 links to his site. And when I say links, I mean Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and, assets that would drive people to his site. And, I would say 10 would be like, we would kind of feel overwhelmed if we were managing 10 assets that drove people to his site. Well, he said that he has 106 different methodologies to drive traffic to his website. He does have 1 million followers, but 106 different ways to drive people to his site. And we feel overwhelmed generally with 10 or 12 or whatever. That was a scary, crazy number to me. And he probably has a staff that works on it for him instead of, his staff is 100. My staff might be, less than 10 or whatever. But it's all of those people driving traffic to his site. So it's crazy good. And never, ever, ever quit educating and telling people about the purpose of your site, why your site exists. My site exists to talk about search engine optimization. Boyd does a great deal of and a good job of talking about social media management. And together we do a couple of other things. We have our other programs like Entrepreneur Factory and Reputation Revolution and SEO in 360. You should look up all of those, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the background here, so keep that in mind. So to recap about us: improve your website structure, work on important pages first, clear the clutter, always improve the site speed, and that's an important one, and improve your structured data, and talk to the users and search engines. So that's kind of it today. There's my checklist. It's all I did was copy this from the last one when we talked about landing pages. So that's not mine. I mean, if you want to have a quick screen grab, I'll hold that up for a second. And then bonus time. Go to SEO360.com. There's about 100 ebooks there. There's also services rendered by BP Media and SEO in 360 and E2 Total Solutions, and there's a lot of things going on there. And remember, it's always drop by drop. Makes an ocean, makes a lake, hollows out a seaside cave, but it's one drop of water at a time. So it's all of these drops of water working in conjunction that make us successful. So please think of yourself as a drop of water. Thank you so much. And Boyd is back at it.
Yes, I was waiting for your bonus to finish. So
there you go.
All right. Well, thank you very much. This has been great. I hope that everybody got a lot out of this, because I did. And, like I said, we had a discussion a few weeks ago about landing pages, but this is more the nuts and bolts of what you need to do to make it so that it'll be attractive to both sides of the equation, the consumer and SEO. Okay.
The first one was really a lot about how, people kind of see it.
How you can use them and what do you do with them. And, we talked about, using different, just using one product at a time. And that was great, because that is what you're supposed to do. But this is then how to take them and optimize them for that.
Absolutely. So everyone, remember to check us out on our blog on Factory. It's a factory.
It's a podcast. It's called Entrepreneur Factory Podcast. Okay, we got that.
Word entrepreneur.
All right. And so we have that. You can find that. We come out Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with that. And so go check them out. There's over 140 episodes so far, and we keep putting out 3 a week. So be sure to go take a look at that, because there's a lot of great information, and it's short little bits, usually 20 minutes or so, and they're great. And then also, of course, our free Tuesday trainings,
which this is.
Check them out.
Yeah. So check that out. We have a new product that we're rolling out called Reputation-Revolution that we're getting close with. So
yes, we'll be launching it probably late this week.
Okay,
so thank you.
All right, everyone. Have a great day.